Viewers, you're watching the Explosive Exclusive. We're moving a little away from our usual format because the nature of the story is very big. On Tuesday, the central government announced a radical reform for the youth of this country, a short-term recruitment scheme for the armed forces called the Agnipath. And those who would be inducted would be called Agniveers. 2 days after that announcement, at least 7 states across the country have witnessed dramatic protest against it. Vehicles set ablaze, tires burnt on the roads and on railway tracks, train stations ransacked, and even policemen attacked. During the violent protests from Haryana to Rajasthan to Uttar Pradesh, the violence spread like wildfire. Even Madhya Pradesh and Delhi were caught in crosshair. The states that witnessed the worst of it all were the Hindi heartland states, especially Bihar. Across the state, there were reports of arson coming in, and the BJP bore the brunt of it all. Its office in Nevada ransacked and then set ablaze, a murderous assault on one of its MLAs, where her car was attacked and vandalized. Listen into that MLA, who is today running scared for her life.
आज हम लोग के साथ घटना हुआ, हम लोग आ रहे थे नवादा, और नवादा में हम लोग के पता नहीं था कि इस तरह के मैंने सब अच्छी धरना दिया हुआ है, चाहे तो कर रहा है, हम लोग के पते नहीं था कि हल्ला हंगामा हो रहा है, तो हम नहीं आते। हम लोग अचानक आए, उसके बाद झंडा और बोर्ड नोचे फेंक दिया और ईंटा पत्थर बरसाने लगा पूरा। अभी भी ईंटा जो है 3-4 गो गाड़ी के अंदर है, शीशा पूरा चूर दिया, बॉडी चूर दिया, गाड़ी के अंदर बांस है और गार्ड के चोट ड्राइवर के लगा, हम लोग के लगा, इतना ने ईंटा बरसाने लगा ने कि कुछ कह नहीं सकते। प्रशासन के तो एसपी साहब ने किए 2 घंटा हो गया फोन करने,
तो कोई रिस्पॉन्स नहीं मिला, और
वो बोले कि ठीक है हम डीएसपी साहब से बात करते हैं, तो हम ही लोग नहीं सुरक्षित है तो हम पर भी क्या सुरक्षित रहेंगे।
The protests weren't the only aspect. As always, there has been provocation. One opposition leader after another lined up to demand the revocation of this scheme. The Congress even said that they would hit the streets in protest against the decision. It would lead to unemployment after 4 years, said others. Some others called it a short way of desperate youth being pushed into crime. When they're weaponized, when they know how to use weapons, they say, and they're let go without job and prospects, they will be recruited all sorts of agencies that want to wage war on the country, that wish the country ill. That's all debatable, viewers. The BJP on its part, realizing, at least on the face of it, the spontaneous blowback, started working overtime to counter the charges.
सरकार ने 2 करोड़ रोजगार का जो वायदा किया था, आज उससे ध्यान भटकाने के लिए ये 10 लाख का शगुफा छोड़ा है। 10 लाख नकली सपने ना दिखाए सरकार, लेकिन असली 1.5 लाख जो वैकेंसी हैं उनकी भर्ती तुरंत खोले सरकार, ये मेरी मांग है। रिक्रूटमेंट की पॉलिसीज हैं जिससे इतना व्यापक रोष हो रहा है पूरे देश में नौजवान में, इन बातों को लेकर संसद में एक दिन की चर्चा, विशेष तौर पे जब संसद का सत्र शुरू हो, राजनीति से ऊपर उठकर इन चीज़ों पे चर्चा होनी चाहिए।
छात्रों के, युवाओं के लिए एक बहुत बड़ी उपयोगी योजना है। इसमें लाखों रोजगार के अवसर भी प्रदान होंगे, साथ साथ राष्ट्रभक्ति का भी जागृति होगा। देश के युवा शक्ति को रोजगार मिल रहा है, सुनहरे अवसर प्रदान किए जा रहे हैं, तो उन्हें भड़काने का प्रयास किया जा रहा है।
क्या ट्रेनिंग से निकालने के बाद
या सवाल खड़ा होता है, क्या उन्हें अपराधी या आतंकवादी या नक्सली बनने पर मजबूर किया जाएगा? जो 4 साल 5 सालों से जो जवान, जो युवा सैनिक भर्ती के लिए मेहनत कर रहा है, क्या उसको 4 साल में बेरोजगार बना दिया जाएगा?
मुझे लगता है कि इस योजना को ठीक ढंग से हमारे नौजवान समझ नहीं पाए हैं, या कहीं न कहीं कोई भ्रम की स्थिति है। चाहे केंद्र सरकार हो, चाहे राज्य सरकार हो, आपके जीवन में सेवा का अवसर आवे, आप नियोजित हों, इसके लिए दोनों सरकारें गंभीर हैं। और इसलिए इस तरह के आंदोलन को वापस लेकर जो सरकार की जो मंशा है उसको समझने का प्रयास करें।
Well, viewers, you've seen the pictures. In some states, you've also now witnessed the mayhem. So is this scheme really good for the country, or is it going to lead to the weakening of our armed forces? Let's open this up. Let's ask a few basic questions. I want to first bring in Colonel DPK Pillay. Colonel Pillay, in your experience, do we need this scheme? If so, why? Number two, is it beneficial, or all these fears that are being expressed by the youth misplaced?
Most importantly, we must look back into the era that we are actually fighting and understand that in the Kargil Review Committee, which had demanded that we must have a younger profile of the armed forces, and we had the A.V. Singh committee report, which reduced the age profile of commanding officers from 40s to 30s, and the requirement of the armed forces to have a young, fit fighting army. And second is to understand the operating environment that we are right now in. You've seen the war happening in Ukraine, and you've seen the war that happened in Azerbaijan, and it's all technology-driven war. It's not the war of World War II where numbers made a difference. No, it was not the war. So we need highly qualified, competent, intelligent people who can use technology to their advantage. The systems are getting more technical and important. So doing business, recruiting in the same old way is not going to find solutions, because now you need to have a new talent pool. You need to have a new manpower that comes in here to operate the high-tech equipment that you've seen. You've seen single operators, you've seen the drone attacks taking place in Libya and Yemen from faraway mainland and America. So these are the kind of operators that you need for. So I think this is something which is misunderstood. The method and manner in which they have been communicated is not, and definitely I don't see the agitation is finding a place in the armed forces, because we need. Firstly, you must understand, you don't join the army to get money. There's an honor, there's a calling in serving the army. And we have been generations of people who serve in the armed forces. It is not because we knew the life is tough, and we knew it's not because you're going to get a comfortable life. There is a calling that makes, and then there's no dearth of people who are willing to lay down their lives or serve their country or take up arms on behalf. So the kind of people who take up, these are people who definitely don't love the country. They are not the kind of people that you want them to serve in the army. I don't think soldiers who love their country would get into agitationist mode. So I am really, even if there's some political reasons for agitating and attacking we must always try new methods, find solutions. There is a pension burden, and the effect of this is going to come 17 years later. It's not going to come now, because these people would come into the 25% that will be retained. I think what is more important is selecting the right people, and also the retention should be of the right people. That apprehensions that we have, that people who
so
are...
Colonel, are you suggesting, I just want to understand where you're coming from on this. Though there are some merits to the scheme, they exist in other countries, we know that. And when people exit the army under those schemes, those conscript schemes, it doesn't mean that they pick up guns and start becoming anti-socials, etc., etc. But more fundamentally, are you suggesting that these youth that are out there on the streets today are being misled? There's some element of politics?
See, the person who loves this country is definitely not going to indulge in arson, violence, beating up. I think we take up arms to protect what we value and cherish in this country. And these people are definitely not military material.
Okay.
I would rather give my life
bring in
than
Major
to destroy
General
a bus,
AJB
or kill somebody else.
Yeah, let me bring in Major General AJB Jaini. Mr. Jaini, Major General Jaini, I want to ask you specifically, why are you opposed to this scheme?
Well, in my considered opinion, firstly, I want to thank you for inviting me on your show.
You're welcome.
And I want to say that in my considered opinion, this is a scheme which has not been thought through till its logical end. To put it very bluntly, it looks like more of vote bank politics. You see, Colonel Pillay just mentioned about technological warfare. He mentioned about calling of the nation. He mentioned about the pension burden. Let me just very quickly kill those 3 points. If it is a technology-oriented warfare, how will 6 months of training and just about 2 years plus of his unit life make him a technological warrior? Calling of the nation. Earlier on, the color service was 7 years, and which went up to 15 years, 17 years. In 2 years' time, you cannot create that jazba, that namak, nishan, that feeling of Josh and that, man, come on, I'm going to get to Tiger Hill, whatever be, for the shan and izzat of my battalion. My father was the Subedar Major of this unit. I will to the end, to the last drop of my blood. In 2 years' time, you cannot, I'm afraid, create that. And talking of the pension bill, let us get the facts right. The pension bill and the pay bill is just 5.2 lakh crores. For a country which is boasting as the second largest economy of the world, and we want to be a 5 trillion economy, what is 5.2 lakh crores when hundreds of lakhs of crores are being doled out, for nothing? So those are the points I want to just counter. Please don't mind, Colonel Pillay, but those are my views.
No, you're entitled to your views.
No, I want to say, for 6 months of training. As of now, I've been a regimental commander, I've been a center commandant, I've been a brigade commander, I've been a divisional commander. We train a man for 54 weeks. And even after 54 weeks of training, when this draft comes to the battalion, every commanding officer runs a cadre for 2 to 3 months to make these people worthwhile members of the team.
Okay.
I'm really shocked as to how in 6 4 or 24 weeks, we are going to create a soldier out of him. I'm very, very doubtful. Now take the 4 years. In the 4 years, 4 2s are 8 months leave. He is entitled to 2 months leave because his entitlements don't go away. His entitlements remain the same as any other army soldier. So 4 2s are 8 months annual leave. 1 month every year casual leave, 28 days. That makes it 12 months. 6 months of training makes it 18 months. 4 to 6 months, the guy will be here and there.
You're saying inexperienced, underprepared, etc. Okay, yes. Let's open this up. I get your drift. The government, of course, viewers, is trying to put out its own communication on this, and government sources have sought to try and put this entire issue into context. They have cited certain myths, and then they have tried to supply answers to those myths. Before I take you through those myths and the facts that the government is falling back on, I want to bring in Mr. Ratan Sharda and the political dimension through Anurag Bhadauria. Now, Anurag Bhadauria, your political party, the Congress, other opposition parties have been saying that this is the fastest way to ruining the forces. Why do you say this?
मुझे कितनी अच्छी बात अभी जनरल साहब ने कही कि आप 4 साल के लिए एक फौजी को आप उसे अपॉइंट करते हो, भर्ती करते हो, वो 6 महीने की ट्रेनिंग में रहेगा, उसके पास हमेशा वो इनसिक्योर रहेगा, उसकी इनसिक्योरिटी रहेगी जॉब के अंदर में, वो ट्रेंड भी नहीं हो पाएगा, ना वो पूरी तरह से फौजी बन पाएगा। एक बात। दूसरी बात, आप क्या ठेके पे फौज को देना चाहते हो क्या? ये तो एक तरह से ठेकेदारी प्रथा हो गया ना कि 4 साल हम आपको लेंगे, 4 साल बाद फिर आपको निकाल दिया जाएगा, फिर आप घर चले जाएंगे। मतलब आप जिसको हिंदी में कहते हैं ना, किशोरावस्था में आपको जॉब मिलेगी और भरी जवानी में आपको 22, 23, 24 साल में रिटायर कर दिया जाएगा। सोचिए आप, उसके बाद वो युवा कहां जाएगा? उसके लिए क्या प्रोविजन आपने रखा है? उसके लिए अगर भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेताओं से बोले तो अभी आपको जवाब देंगे, कहेंगे कि हमने उसके लिए प्राथमिकता रखी हुई है कि दूसरी जगह भर्ती करने के लिए। गारंटी क्यों नहीं है भाई? आपने तो वैसे प्राथमिकता, तो आपकी बात का तो भरोसा है नहीं। आपने तो बोला था 2 करोड़ रोजगार देंगे, जो आज तक नहीं मिला प्रत्येक साल में। आपने बोला था देश का हालत जो होगी बिकने नहीं देंगे, और सारी चीजें यूनिट धीरे धीरे पब्लिक सेक्टर बिक गए। तो आपकी किस बात पे भरोसा कर लेंगे? कल आप 4 साल की नौकरी के बाद फिर वो बेरोजगार हो जाएगा, फिर इसी तरह से रोड पे वो अपना रोजगार का हक मांगने के लिए आएगा कि हमें रोजगार दे दो। इसके मतलब कल वो पुलिस वाले उसको पकड़ेंगे, उस यूथ को, जो यूथ फौज रहेगा, जो फौजी रहेगा, उसको टांग के ले जाएंगे, पैर पकड़ के टांग के कि भैया यहाँ पे क्यों।
भदौरिया साहब, मगर सरकार कहती है कि उनको लोन्स दिए जाएंगे, उनकी फंडिंग होगी, अगर उनको बिजनेस चलाना है प्रायोरिटी मिलेगी उनको सेंट्रल आर्म्ड पुलिस फोर्सेस एंड स्टेट पुलिस में भर्ती की, एंड 12th इक्विवेलेंट सर्टिफिकेट मिलेगा, ब्रिज कोर्सेज होंगे, उनको स्किल किया जाएगा।
आपसे मैं पूछना चाहता हूं, अगर वो 4 साल में 18 महीने तो निकल गए, कितना स्किल बना देंगे उसको?
ठीक है,
कितना उसको वो लोन दे देंगे? ऐसे भी अगर आप यूथ के बारे में सोचते हो तो आप लोन वैसे भी दे दो ना। एनसीसी के वो कैडेट बहुत है जो एनसीसी करके आते हैं।
Ratan Sharda,
के बारे में सोच
Ratan Sharda, the opposition says this is an attempt at misleading the youth.
Rahul, I don't understand why we have to shout and we have to hector on an issue which is a very great national issue. We are talking recruitment to the army. World over, even countries like USA, Israel, UK have a short commission, 2 years, 4 years of army training. In fact, there is compulsory training. We are not talking about this compulsory training yet. For me, the first advantage is that we'll have a hardcore of youth who will have trained under military, who would have known what is the meaning of discipline, who would know what it means to love the country, and that kind of core of youth will be created in the nation, which is very positive. Secondly, when people say 4 saal baad aage kya karega, we know, do you mean that all the people unemployed today should turn Naxals or they have turned Naxals? They have not. It is not a normal practice of people to become Naxal or become an anarchic or gangster like Pappu Yadav saying that log gundagardi karenge, log private army joinenge. Please have some sense. As far as you have already considered all the policies that government is offering, to my mind, when a youth comes out of 21, 22, you know and I know, if you look at their employability, it is worst kind of employability today they have. When they go to army, when they're disciplined, when they're better urged to do something good, and they are strong personalities, when they do the courses after the 2 years which they would have done anyway, they're not gone to army, they would be much better people who can get employed, who can be used much more by the corporate. Ask the people what kind of people they want. Why do retired army men get very easy jobs in HR, in security and various other very important management posts? Because they're much more tuned, they are much better trained. And here we have people shouting all kind of nonsensical excuses which I don't think have any meaning. Mr. Pillay rightly talks that whether these people are sitting on the roads, do they really deserve to be in the army? If they deserve to be in the army, they won't behave like this. Last time we had a similar riot in Bihar when people in railway recruitment board restored railway properties. Do they deserve to be in the railways? Here we are trying to create better qualified people who can be much better graduates, much better qualified people, trained and disciplined people who will be much more employable than what we have today. We have seen engineers who don't know to draw the tables. We know engineers who don't know to write basic formulae. We have philosophy people, literature people.
Okay, Bhadauria Saab, would you like to respond to Mr. Ratan Sharda? Quick response, and I want to bring in then Colonel DPK Pillay. Yes.
बिल्कुल, मेरा सीधा सवाल उनसे है, अगर आप इसको फिर ये क्यों बोलते हो कि हम आपको रोजगार दे रहे हैं? आप रोजगार का शब्द खत्म कर दीजिए। आप कहिए जो यूथ यहाँ पे आर्मी में 4 साल सेवा करना चाहता है आए, और जो हमारे पास, भाई आपके पास अभी भी 2 लाख रोजगार है आर्मी का, 2 साल से भर्ती नहीं हुई है, आपने अभी जवान भर्ती नहीं किए, तो आप उनको भर्ती कर लेते। उनको भाई वो 2000 अभी 2 लाख जो 1.5 लाख लोग हैं जिनको 2 साल से भर्ती नहीं, उनको अलग भर्ती कीजिए, इनको सेपरेट भर्ती कर लीजिए कि आपको डिसिप्लिन के लिए 4 साल के लिए अपनी इच्छा अनुसार आइए और 4 साल रह के आप यहाँ पे ट्रेंड होके आप चले जाइए। फिर आप क्यों कह रहे हो इसको रोजगार में क्यों कंसिडर कर रहे हो कि हम आपको रोजगार दे रहे हैं? आप इसका रोजगार शब्द हटा दीजिए। आप बोलिए भाई ये मैंडेटरी है, आप अगर आपको फौज की देश की सेवा करनी है तो आप आइए 3 साल के लिए 4 साल।
भदौरिया साहब देखिए ऐसा है भदौरिया साहब कि हर रिफॉर्म कोई भी रिफॉर्म हो तो दैट रिफॉर्म इज रेजिस्टेड. The new recruitment rules will help cut soldiers' average age from 32 to 25. The best of the best will secure permanent soldier position, as Colonel Pillay has told us. The rest can join police and other services. As it is, we have a large number of people who automatically do leave college and school, and they eventually end up finding employment. All of them don't become Naxals, Maoists, or pick up the weapon against the country. And anyone who has had training will have had an exposure to a culture of putting India first and will not join ranks with Break India forces. Colonel Pillay, is there really reasons to be apprehensive on this score about wayward youth, about youth after 4 years becoming so disenchanted that they will turn into mercenaries, hired guns against the Indian state?
I don't believe that at all, because like I told you, the calling for the armed forces is different, and you must understand that, you know, those who say that can you get me the statistics on the number of people who are actually gun runners or drug runners or drug traffickers today? Even today we have a lot of problems in our employment. We have, how many of them actually take up arms on cause of this thing? So statistically, I don't think this kind of an idea is supported. And the other issue that I want to bring out is about the training and other aspects. We must remember, like all the training, I've been trained in NDA and then an IMA, and the moment the first shot is fired at you, all this training doesn't come to help you. It's the environment, your battalion, your company, your platoon, the people who are around, who actually train you and make you what you are. So your impact on you is not, you know, you may be trained for a year, but you've seen that in World War I and World War II. People were not even trained. They went into battle and they won the wars for their country. So we shouldn't really say that 52 days or 52 months of training would actually produce somebody else. There's no formula for that. Soldiering, like, we have epics, we have stories of Abhimanyu, who was a young boy who broke the Chakravyuh. You know, you must understand, there is a martial tradition in our country. People who are inspired and the ones who love the country. I would like, I definitely know the kind of soldiers that we have, really are proud of being part of it. So
proud of them. And look, breaking news coming in, the left is now writing to the Prime Minister, the left wants this scheme withdrawn. The left wants this scheme withdrawn. There is already, of course, a large number of views that are being presented by various elements in the opposition ranks, that if the scheme is not withdrawn, then more youth and more political parties that will back the youth will hit the streets. Left writes to the Defence Minister, rather not the Prime Minister, sorry, I'm correcting myself. Left writes to the Defence Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, demanding a withdrawal of this scheme. Let's go across to Shireen. Shireen, what are the reasons? Why does the left want this scheme to be withdrawn? The government has said over the last few years, in fact, much time, they have actually held a large number of conversations and consultations with stakeholders.
Well, the main reasons why the CPIM MPA Rahim has in fact written to Defence Minister asking for a withdrawal is saying that this scheme with such conditions of recruitment can seriously affect the spirit of the armed forces and dilute the professionalism and the military ethos. Apart from that, he also says that this casts a doubt on the bravery of the applicants. The scheme will also put the burden of already planning for a second career upon the recruits and hence make them a risk averse. He also, in fact, has asked the Defence Minister to note that millions of youth in the country need the career and in the armed force, and this could actually hamper their career, and this could actually, after 4 years, they will in fact be lost in their professional life altogether. They won't be knowing what really needs to be done for their future. So these are some of the points that has in fact been pointed out by A. Rahim, who is the CPIM Rajya Sabha MP, and he has written to Defence Minister asking for a withdrawal of the Agnipath scheme.
Well, familiar trajectory, viewers. We saw this, the same trajectory, the CA, we saw the same trajectory after the 3 farm laws were enacted by Parliament. Violence, protests, violent protests. Just hope that the government doesn't take a step back after committing itself to reform. We'll take a short break.